Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. I am JT.
What's up, guys? I'm Joey.
And today we are going to discuss why blue belts quit BJJ.
Aha, this is a good topic.
It is a cultural phenomena, and if you don't know about it, you're about to find out. There's a thing that happens in jiu-jitsu where people train, they work hard, they've been in their white belt forever, and they finally attain the holy land, the rank of blue belt. And then they just dematerialize. They just evaporate and never return to training. They've made it.
Well, the joke is that the jiu-jitsu community needs to storm Area 51 because apparently that's where all the blue belts are hiding.
Yeah, pretty much. What is it? Like blue belt is the black belt for quitters. That's something like that. Now,
Mate,
guys,
it's so true.
It is, right?
For us now, having trained for so long,
Sure.
you can look back at how many blue belts you've known that just never went on beyond that.
Yeah.
They disappeared. And, whatever. It's not like everyone has to get to black belt, but there is a distinct thing that occurs at blue that we're going to talk about.
Definitely.
Where, I don't know, it becomes easy to kind of step away from the game.
Definitely, because it is an achievement, no question.
It's your first true achievement in jiu-jitsu, isn't it?
It is.
You get the white belt for free.
Yes.
But the blue belt is the first thing you are graduated to.
Definitely. And look, it can be a long road for some people. They might be on their white belt a long time. And then the blue belt is like recognition. Yeah. It's not like you've made it, but it's like, yes, you have achieved a level above when you walked in the door. But it sets up a problem mentally. And the first thing I wanted to talk, well, actually before, I think we might dig into a real life case that has occurred. No, a blue belt disappearing.
Yeah. I used to train with a guy. Really great guy.
Beautiful. This is the eulogy.
Even did a bit of Bulletproof.
Amazing.
Came to the small groups, got strong,
God.
mobile.
Yeah.
All of the attributes.
Seemed like a nice guy.
Yeah. Was really on that purple belt trajectory.
Of course.
And, lockdown came and that was very unfortunate.
Of course.
And lockdown ended, but he still hasn't resurfaced from the lockdown.
Right.
He's a great man. His name was Jake O'Neill.
Was.
No, he's a fucking legend. But yeah, he hasn't come back.
May he rest in peace in his blue belt.
That's right. Up there with all the other blue belts, avoiding the tough rolls, not doing the warm up. It was fuck yeah. He's copped so much shit at our academy, and it's all. I mean, he's in poor guy too because he was. Him and Dan were, I believe, were Adam's, my coach, our friend Adam Child's first blue belts.
Right.
So, and they were like the first two members at the gym. So they've had extra special pressure put on them.
Yes.
To be, to uphold the standard and that kind of thing. And so it's like, well, where the fuck's Jake?
There's nothing like the peer pressure of the team to make you go to training.
Why is it that this phenomena is such?
Okay. So I think, what we should look at here is this is something I've thought about a fair bit because it also happens within life in general. And this happens to us all as humans is this problem of attainment. We get really focused on attainment, whether it's money, a promotion, whatever it might be, a car, a job, some form of thing that we assign our happiness to. We go, I'm not going to be happy until I get that thing, like a level of dissatisfaction, which in some ways is good because it drives you. But here is the deal. By the time you get there, you get the thing and you're like, oh, I've got the thing. Nothing changes. Even though there could be relief or a bit of joy,
you're still you.
It's pretty short-lived, yeah. And so actually I'm going to reference an amazing classic moment in cinema history. I'm going to throw you back to the early 90s.
Oh.
Cool Runnings.
Ah.
Right. So for those of you who do not know, this is the Disney fictional film. Well, it's semi-fictional, but it's based on a real thing that happened.
What are you talking about everyone fucking knows Cool Runnings.
Hey, man, if you don't know, well, look, some
Jamaican
people
bobsled team.
Yeah, bro. And Cool Runnings. It was a great...
I went and saw it with one of my first girlfriends.
Oh, wow. There you go.
I remember I worked real fucking hard, the courage to put my arm around her in the movie.
Oh.
And I threw it over there and, she didn't knock it back. So I was like, we're good. And her head was resting on my bicep.
Yeah.
It was just,
of
a
course,
skinny little
as you
noodle
do.
arm at the time. not the fucking quivering mass that you see before you now. Yeah. But I put my arm there and I was so nervous to get it there that I'm like, now that it's here, I can't take it away. And all I remember is by the end of the film, I was in excruciating pain.
You lost all feeling.
And I was like, I lifted my arm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I had a similar thing. First girlfriend just kind of sat on my knee, like, which was like, oh my God. It's like sitting at lunchtime in high school, year 7.
Oh, wow.
Just sat on my knee and my leg went dead. And then I couldn't feel my foot. And I didn't want to tell her to get off. Like, it wasn't like, oh, she was heavy. It's just, I had no circulation in my leg. And then when she got up, the bell went, I couldn't walk. I literally couldn't move my leg. I had to sit there and rub the circulation back into my leg. The things we do for love.
I love her.
But here's the thing, guys. The idea of attainment is there's this moment in Cool Runnings where he says, if you're not enough without the medal, you will never be enough with the medal. And he's talking about John Candy, RIP, big comedian, big guy, very funny guy, died of a massive heart attack, no surprise. He cheated, and that's why he wasn't as successful. He cheated when he was in the Olympics. His character cheated. And so this gets thrown in the faces of the players that their coach was a cheater. And the captain says, man, why did you cheat? And he's like, I just wanted to win so badly. He wanted the attainment so much, he's willing to compromise his integrity.
Yeah, TJ Dillashaw.
Take that EPO. Hey, man, if you're going to dope, EPO is the way, just saying. Side effects are very low, but you get the fitness. But
so I hear you. So it's like, yeah, we get really driven by getting to that landmark or that milestone. And then when you get there, it's like, well, life doesn't actually change.
Yeah.
And so you kind of still, you're
confronting.
Yeah. Once that initial kind of elation of achieving the milestone has worn off, it's like, oh, well, fuck. I'll tell you a good example for me.
Sure.
I think in my mind, actually, I was having a conversation with a friend of ours, John Marsh.
Yeah, legend.
Who doesn't, great guy, doesn't really know much about jiu-jitsu. And we were talking about it. And he's like, oh, when do you think you're going to get your black belt? And we were talking about that. And he was like, wow. And I can't remember how it came up, but I was explaining to him how, like, even once I get to black belt, I'd still get my ass kicked by like a world champion blue belt.
Sure.
And he was
I don't think that's true, but sure.
Oh, mate. Yeah, okay. But
there's levels.
Yeah, like if you're highly competitive and training at that level, right, you're going to be a real handful no matter where someone else is at. And he was like, he was a bit perplexed by that, but he's and he was thinking like, but once you're a black belt, shouldn't that just mean that you are like kicking everyone's ass? And I'm like, that's the illusion of it. That's what you kind of think. And I was thinking about relevant to that when we're talking about this podcast. I was at training on Monday night, training with a lot of white belts, and I had fucking tough rolls.
Yeah.
We were doing a bunch of live drilling, live sparring, and the guys were putting it on me.
Joe Rush Wire.
Yeah, right. Thank God Joey Rush wasn't there. Because but I was like, these guys are bringing the heat. Young Joey at blue and purple belt probably was under the illusion that he would never be touched by a white belt or a blue belt because I'm above that.
Yeah.
But the case is, it's like, no, it's always hard.
Yes.
Like it never gets to the point where you're like fucking McDojo, like use the force shit.
Just Tai Chi. Psh.
Yeah. So, but in the beginning, I think when you're a white belt, you're thinking, man, when I get to blue belt, like none of these guys are going to be fucking with me anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be on another trajectory.
Yeah, I'm on another level.
And very quickly you go back to your first training session and they're coming at you even harder. Because they want to show the coach, I'm a fucking blue belt.
I can beat that blue belt.
Yeah. And you're like, holy shit. Like you're almost worse than you were the week before when you were at the end of your white belt.
And there is a crisis of conscience. And I've seen this so many times. And this is the thing that you get from being in the game for a while is you see someone either kind of swell into that blue belt. You see someone get their blue belt and they boss up. And you're like, whoa, this person's like, they're letting you know I'm the blue belt. And then some people shrink. People are like, God, there's so much expected of me now. Like I'm actually there's some expectation for me to hold a certain level. Whereas when you're a white belt, even if you've got a couple of stripes, you're a white belt. You're kind of free in that way. But definitely, and this is the thing, my misconception about getting my black belt was, not that I thought it was going to have magical powers, but I thought I'm going to have a certain level of understanding by the time I'm a black belt. And I didn't. Like I had accumulated a certain amount of knowledge, But there were brown belts who tap me and I'd be like, God. And then I just think there's a hole in my knowledge. And because you're a black belt, you have to show up. You can't not show up. If you're a white belt and you have a bad day, no one cares. You're a white belt. Your life's going to suck a lot for a long time until you get up. But then when you're a blue belt, it's coupled with that idea of, well, you're not a white belt anymore. You know, you got to put your big person gi on, and you actually have to bring a degree of level, and people don't like this.
It's got to, in a way, like what you just said about how you felt about when you got your black, it's got to be the equivalent situation for them.
Yes.
Like they're feeling, it's their black belt, and they're like, oh my God, like how you know, I should be doing better.
Yes. But the truth is this, guys, and this is the attainment versus process, and this is the thing I wanted to open with, is that, and you will see it, and it's more of a calm, I would say, Joey, this is where Joey and I, actually, this is a lesson I take from Joe Worthington, the few lessons.
I'm putting up 2022 mentorship program. One of my greatest disciples right here. Please apply.
Well, if you would like to train with his trainer that gets him strong, feel free to just message me. No, I think the thing is this, guys. Joe is very process oriented. He's a day in, day out. What are we doing today? What are the actionables? Let's do those things. I understand that those things are important, but they're fucking boring. It's so boring. It's like, I want to talk exciting things. I want to talk about jiu-jitsu robots. You know, I want to talk about the fucking future. I feel like Kanye West. I got synesthesia. I'm hearing colors. I can see sounds. Like, I am so far in the future. You guys don't understand. Joe's like, bro, calm down.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about that.
Have you tied your shoelaces this morning?
Have we done
yes
the emails? No? You know.
Yeah, I tied my left to my right.
Yeah, it's the way. This is how it looks in the future, all right? And the truth is, when it comes to getting better, it's funny when you can see people doing things in their day-to-day lives which are very ordered and organized, but when they come to jiu-jitsu, it's just chaos.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's my free time. I don't want to think. I don't want to be organized. But if you can be process-oriented, which is when I show up, I do my warm-up, I bring my water bottle, I do all these things, even though that seems boring, that builds to success. So if you actually want to be good at this thing, you get focused on the little things in the day in and day out in the process. And just know that winning and losing are, you know, either side of the coin, the yin and the yang, of a process of development. And that losing to a white belt, even though you're a blue belt, that might suck. You got to go, that white belt is on one and I'm having a bad day. And then on another day, you might be kicking ass and you're a blue belt and you tap a purple belt. Well, maybe they were having a bad day, you were having a good day. There's so many variables there that you need to be able to step back from the emotion of it and the, I'm a blue belt, and the ego and the attainment, and go, what is this process? And understand that blue belt is just a step within the process of getting good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to conceptualize it in my mind, but there's like when you start jiu-jitsu, I've spoken about this before, there's a short-term aspect to like a short-term perspective that you have. And that is, oh, James and I started at the same time, like 2 months ago, so we're probably going to get our first stripe soon. And then,
together,
you know, and then that's happening. And, oh, but so-and-so was already here, so they've got 3 stripes.
They're a bit better.
You know, and then someone gets their blue belt and you're like, oh, fuck, you know, why didn't I? Or you get yours and they're like, why not? And as a coach, and I mean, I don't coach a lot of jiu-jitsu, but I've had a lot of these conversations where people are like, fuck, I haven't been showing up. I need to get, you know, so-and-so got their stripe. I need to get my stripe or their blue belt. And it's like you're looking at every single session and every minute of the day and like, how do I stay on par with these people? You get to my fucking level, 13, 14 years of jiu-jitsu. I've seen people go from white belt to brown belt in the same amount of time that I've had my brown belt.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I just don't give a fuck. I'm like, wow, how about that?
Good for you.
Because I could, I mean, you know, if I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, I almost quit a few times. And like, so you're like, as you get further down the path, you just, that whole like micro observation of the timeline is just obliterated. And all of a sudden, it just becomes about you and your journey.
That's right.
And I think that at that blue belt time, for most people, not for the people who have been like 10 years of white belt, but for most people who are, it's pretty early on in the piece for them, they're still looking at that micro timeline.
Yes.
And so you're expecting rapid progressive growth and you're still comparing yourself to your training partners like day in and day out.
Yeah.
And I think kind of what you're getting at is like, don't fucking worry about that. Like you have to take this long-term view, which is essentially looking at the process and applying yourself to that. I'm just going to show up, keep training, do my best, be consistent. That's the goal.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But this is where I want to move from the something which I guess we all know in our hearts, but it's not the sexiest thing, you know? We want rewards. We want dopamine. We want to feel like we're getting better. All of these things. The difficult thing with this is as you get better, others get better. And if you train at a hyper-competitive gym, and I did, I was training at Absolute in St Kilda, very intense environment with the pros. If you take a week off, you come back and everyone's doing something new. You're like, what's this new thing? Oh yeah, we were just talking about this and everyone drilled this and now this is a new part of the paradigm. You're like, God, I'm playing catch up. And even if it's a month off, it can be like that. You come back and people that you were beating multiple times and now they're kicking your butt. And this is the difficult thing. It doesn't mean that you're that much worse. It just means they have improved whatever. And the problem with this is the expectation versus the reality. We expect if we as individuals show up the same amount of time every week, put in, and I don't know what you're doing outside of training. You don't know what I'm doing. Maybe, for us, we do. But when you're looking across the room at another person of the same rank, you're not built the same. You don't learn the same. There's going to be different
lives,
different outcomes.
Yeah.
They've got a kid. You don't have a kid. They're 21. You're 38.
Yeah.
Whatever the situation might be, you need to understand that not all belts are the same and your expectation has nothing to do with the reality. So I think this is important that your expectation of what a blue belt is, and then you get it, is very different to what the reality is. And the reality is the glory is short and the hard work is long. So, and I'm not trying to talk you guys out of this, right? Because we all understand if you're listening to this and you've done jiu-jitsu, you've had your blue belt, maybe you're creeping up on your purple, and you're a blue belt who has not quit, you know what I'm talking about. You're in now, you want to take that next step to graduate towards the purple belt. You know that it's going to be similar. You get the purple, now all the blue belts want to smoke you. Now all the white belts want to smoke you.
Brown belts are a little bit fearful of you, so they're going harder.
I don't want this purple belt coming up on me. And black belt's like, there's no way I'm getting tapped by a purple belt. So you're stuck right in the middle. So if you're taking that step from blue to purple, it gets even harder. But that said, if you have cultivated a process for just, improving yourself, working on your own technique, and not getting caught up in this expectation of, oh, I should be better, I'm better than them, this comparison game, that is super important. And it's like as soon as you're just focused more on how you're going and just, am I getting better, am I learning? That's the key thing. Not, am I better than them? Am I better than me 6 months ago? And if you can say yes, then you're on the right track.
Yeah, I'm sure the statistics would show that if you do get to purple, you're probably likely to continue on to black.
You're in the game.
That would be the case.
You're too deep.
Because by the time you're there, you've come to understand a lot of this stuff, and you do have a process, and you're like, this takes whatever it takes, and I'm just doing the thing.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to see some numbers on. It was very funny. I thought of this recently, and maybe a month ago, and I'm like, we got to talk about this. We got to, put something out there relevant to this, and then popped up on my Instagram, which was incredible because I didn't even verbalize it.
Well, are you sure that is Instagram reading your thoughts through your phone?
Potentially, likely. And it popped up a graph of like, it was kind of like, it was a bit of a meme, but it was like how you perceive your jiu-jitsu at the different belts. And it was like white belt, like I'm just getting smashed. And then it was like blue belt, I know fucking everything. Yeah. And then it was like, boom, like the line just goes straight down and then it's like purple, brown, black.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is exactly me. Like I thought I knew jiu-jitsu and I had a game and I was super athletic and just went really hard. And I gave everyone a hard time. And looking back, I think about it relevant to how I now train against blue belt stuff. And it's Yeah, you give people a hard time because usually they're not that concerned about you.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get, you know, and then like me, I started like fucking rolling like a tornado. They're like, I'm going to put this kid in his place.
Sure.
Put a bit of smash on. But I don't think about the last 2 minutes of the round where they beat the shit out. I'm just thinking, man, I was giving that guy a hard time for the first 3 minutes, you know.
All you can remember.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, it's a lot like when Joey and I roll. I might have submitted Joey once or twice, had position the whole roll, and he's like, bro, how'd you like that single leg I hit on you? And I was like, dude, it was one takedown. It was an 8-minute roll. Like, what are you talking about?
That's when JT brings out the ledger and he's like, well, no, Joey, I've
14
tapped you
points
17 times in the last 3 months. You've tapped me. I'm like, oh, who's counting, bro?
Bro, who's not counting? What are you talking about? Trust me, once you get that black belt and you got uppity brown belts trying to tell you like until they get the strap, until they get that fascia preta, nah. Can't let it fly.
But let me just on that last piece. I think it's a like that acknowledgement that you think you know everything, and I kind of still thought I knew everything at purple belt. Like that was all a bit of a blur. But that line that drops down to that point where you think you know everything, down to oh fuck, I don't know anything.
Yeah,
like I got a couple moves and that's it.
Yeah, and
a couple of fundamentals. That is where this problem lies. Where people are like, fuck, it's like getting hit by a freight train. You're like, man, I got such a long fucking way to go. I'm shit at this. Like that's what it boils down to. You're like, I'm not good at jiu-jitsu. I thought I was really good and I'm not.
Yeah, and I think this is the biggest challenge that faces people. Their first big hurdle in jiu-jitsu, obviously you overcome the squash and the pressure and all of that to go, yeah, I mean, I want to keep doing this. You do it for 2 years, maybe 3 years, however long it takes you to get that blue belt. And it doesn't matter, even if you're a humble person, you're thinking to yourself, this is a certification or this is an acknowledgement that I am better than or I have improved X amount. But the truth is, or the reality is, it is acknowledgement of the work you have put in, but not all blue belts are the same. And you might go train at another gym and your blue belt maybe doesn't stand up. And that can be embarrassing because it turns your world upside down because people were telling you, hey man, you've gotten better, you're good. And then you go somewhere else where they don't care about your feelings and you're getting your day wrecked. And that can make you go, you know what? Fuck jiu-jitsu. I gave 4 good years to this.
I don't need this shit. I'm a blue belt.
Man, I'm going to tell people when I'm at the UFC barbecue, I'm like, fuck, I wouldn't have done the go-go platter like that.
That's one submission I use. That and buggy chokes.
Yeah, man. Buggy choke to counter a buggy choke. That's what Eddie Bravo told me at his seminar. But guys, seriously, when we move to the next thing, and I think this is where we're going to talk a little bit more about learning and why this comparison, they say comparison is the thief of joy, that the competitiveness about the need to win can really kill your learning. Because when you play your A game all the time, like you've got a game, say you've got a good half guard game or you've got a really good takedown pass game, armbar, whatever it is. You're like, I've got my game. I know that I can hit this on most of everyone. And you just don't want to lose. You got your blue belt. I don't want to lose. I've got to prove I'm better than these white belts and I'm tough. You feel the need to prove yourself. Because you get stuck playing your A game because you're so competitive, you don't develop. It's true. And we see it all the time. People who are really good at one thing.
I still do it.
That was me faux talking Joe. That was just describing Joe's whole game.
I catch myself doing it all the time.
Well, I'm me too.
Going back to what I'm really good at here.
Yeah,
for sure. That's something you have to keep. Like you have to actively go. No, I got to work on some shit. Yeah.
It's kind of easy too. It's not even
totally.
It's not even about I have to win. It's just like, what is your default mode? So
it's efficient.
You go to your subconscious game because you've got 5, 6, 8 hard rolls you have to have. You don't want to think about what you're doing. You just want to do the thing and be able to roll well. And the challenge, and this takes a bit of maturity, is to go, I actually suck at side control, getting out of side control. Hey man, you want to start on side control? I'm just gonna work this bad boy. And just spending a bit of time there teaches you that you can get out of there and you can be safe there, even though it's not great. But I think the thing for me was for a long time was like, I want to be a competitor. I want to be a champion. I want to be better than everyone. This is a real thing. And my game got really stuck. At purple belt, my game got really stuck. Like, this is my game. This is the game I play. And then I got caught out in situations, particularly stand-up, because most of my game when I first started jiu-jitsu was guard. I just didn't have anything. didn't have judo, didn't really have wrestling. If I swept, I had a few passes up the sleeve, but I would just always go to guard. And it's just not good enough, especially when you come up on your brown belt. And I said, all right, I'm going to learn some stand-up. And that's what got me very motivated to wrestle and start learning judo and do that. And it changed my jiu-jitsu. I sucked, but it meant I had a good developmental phase. So when I came to black belt, I was more well-rounded. And yeah, I learned heaps and I enjoyed learning. It was one of those things like going to judo, being a white belt again. That was actually cool because there was no expectation on me. And we can choose to do this mentally. You know, we don't have to put this pressure. I'm a blue belt, so I've got to, I'm a purple. Like, you're just a person.
I need to show them all.
Yeah, you got to learn. You got to learn. And really, the person who's most successful is the person who's shortening up their learning loop and getting better. And being competitive and playing your A game can really kind of limit that and hold that back.
How do you, as a practical measure for folks hearing this, like, okay, yeah, I got to do more of that. The other side of the coin is that you do also have to train hard sometimes and go to your A game.
Yep.
And be hyper competitive and not concede points like that. More sort of competition sort of oriented training. And I would argue that's probably like when we train together, you, me, Adam,
Sure.
It's more like that.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just not going to concede anything. And because we're playing at a different level.
Definitely.
How does someone navigate that? Let's just say someone's at blue belt. Would you recommend that they try to use both approaches in the same training session? Or would you say, hey, maybe in one session do this, the other,
This might sound like I guess this is how I'd frame it. Any technique has to stand up under pressure or load. So if it's like a squat, you might squat really well at, about your body weight, like a back squat. But then once you incrementally get more than that, maybe your technique starts to fall apart, knees cave, back rounds, whatever. So there's a threshold at which you can squat quite well. And then there's a threshold at which your technique will break down. The same is true of jiu-jitsu. It's that classic line, I always hit this on white belts, which basically means this works on people who don't know jiu-jitsu. So if you are a blue belt and you're like, how do I develop? It is good for you to probably do things that you're less comfortable with less capable people, so that you know that they're not going to just kill you if you make mistakes. Whereas when you're going up against higher rank people or someone who is your direct nemesis in training, we all have that nemesis, like you're evenly matched, same weight, you probably compete against each other, whatever it is, you don't compete against each other, but
you might even look like each other. And some people of those nemesises are even in business together.
Crazy.
I know.
Yeah. Who'd have thought it was
like
even possible?
It's like being in a boiling kettle together every day. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's difficult, but you've just got to overcome your differences to allow the lower belts to survive. I think the key thing here, guys, is to realize there's times to pull harder. Like there is time. It's good for you to have one or two wars, like absolute fight to the death, and you are playing your A game. But if you don't experiment a bit, let yourself get into a bad situation, like what I mean is like not let them, but the person passes, you stay calm there, work from there. They get your back, you got to get out of there. If you don't allow yourself to work on things that you're not good at, you will never get above that level.
Yeah.
It's just super simple. And you can see it in life. You see people who are really good at one thing, so they just do that forever to a point that they don't keep developing, and then they're kind of stuck. And that's a challenging thing. That's a probably more challenging thing to see in someone's career than jiu-jitsu. But people might do jiu-jitsu longer than they're in a job.
Great point.
I don't know if you know, but like if you know someone specifically, Joe, but I know a guy who's in his white belt for, I think, 6 years before he got his blue belt.
And he was training consistently the whole time?
Yeah, but he also changed gyms a bunch, and he was also just like a jerk, and so I don't think anyone wanted to grade him.
Right.
But anyway, he became a world champion as a white belt. But he was 6 years on that thing. Yeah. He should have been purple belt. But that said, it really depends on a person's ability to see the way forward. And if they can't see the way forward, then maybe they want to quit.
That's just on your comment there, like he should have been a purple belt. If he could have been a purple belt.
He could have been a purple, yeah.
But it's, you got to, I guess it's that thing where it's like, yeah, maybe you do, you change gyms because the gym you're at, it's not working for you. and then you kind of reset back to the start. And it's like, well, so be it. If you're enjoying it more here, that's a good decision to have made.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things that come into it like that. It's even like, I remember at the last comp I was at, watching a guy compete at blue belt, and I was talking to Kel, a guy that we know, Savage black belt, and he's like, "Oh, check this guy out here. This guy was a world champion judo fighter."
Oh,
and he's like, watch him, and this guy just fucking destroyed his entire division.
Rough.
Like threw them, and then it was hyper aggressive, like armbar from the top, whatever, repeatedly, and it's like, guy's a fucking judo black belt and highly competitive.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Like maybe, you know, like he's going to be a handful. So there's so much nuance to it. And I think the big takeaway from what we're talking about is like, you don't put that pressure on yourself. I know for many years when I showed up to training as a blue and purple belt, I put so much pressure on myself to perform. And, you know, man, it was a hobby for me. It's something I'm turning up after a long day of work, sometimes to train. Yeah, sure. Some days I'm turning up and I want to get after it. Some days I'm just there. I'm like, hey, I just want to tick the box. I want to get my training in today and, you know, show up for the team and that kind of thing. And when you put that pressure on yourself, like I have to fucking win every role, I cannot concede anything, you make life really hard for yourself.
Yeah.
I think it can work for some people.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of folks, and very, you know, in terms of what we're talking about, like why blue belts quit, I think that that's self-imposed pressure.
Yeah.
And that fucking micro-analysis, that self-judgment is what makes them quit.
Definitely. And this is a quote I heard not even that long ago, but it makes sense, which is like, nobody's watching, nobody cares.
Yeah.
You know, and we tell ourselves, and you know, me too. Like I always put way too much emotional investment and importance on all the little things I do because that gets me fired up to do them. But that's just me kind of coaching myself and getting myself switched on for it. But at the end of the day, no one else knows what I'm doing. You know, like maybe you guys kind of know a little bit, but in terms of my life and what I do day to day, no one's really paying attention. And the truth is, it's only as important as I say it is. It's not necessarily that important to other people. So if I say, this is the most important thing in the world, if I don't get this, I'll never be happy, that's a choice I've made. But if I can take perspective and go, you know what, this is a small step in a bigger process, and I'm just going to keep taking the steps, then I can be calmer about it. And guys, that's what it really comes down to, is knowing that if you're on this BJJ path, it will take a little while, and that yes, you could train for 4 years and still not be very good, but that's actually great because that means there is a universe of improvement for you that doesn't get old and doesn't get stale. You know, like there's so many layers to it. And what's great about that is once you go through that process and you come to this understanding, you can then share it with another blue belt who might easily quit.
On that note, if you know a blue belt who hasn't shown up to the gym for a long time, please share this episode with them.
Yes, this is the perfect episode.
Yeah.
And we say this with no sense of like, you know, malice or like, you know, small degree of mockery. But it's one of those things that, guys, if you've hit blue belt, stay on the path. Like, it's worth it. It is worth it. I don't care what you say. Even if you can only train 1 day a week, enough to stay in touch, your life will be better with a little bit of jiu-jitsu in it. Even if you're not trying to be a world champion or you can't see, you know, a clear path to your black belt, stay connected because you never know what that might do for you down the track.
Yeah, I second that.
All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. We definitely appreciate it. Now, a thing that is coming up is posters. The posters are coming out.
Yes.
So you may have heard us mention this before, guys, but we have our exercise posters, our mobility posters, and we will be putting these out in the world before Christmas.
We have two posters. One is warm up. So it's our top exercises that you would do before you start jiu-jitsu, and then it's cool down. So the top things you would do after. And the beauty is, if you're a coach, you can have them on the wall of your gym, and you can, like, students go, hey guys, let's do 3 of these, or students coming in can just start their own warm up like before the class begins. They've got something to follow.
There's a reference.
But you've also got material if you need shit to make your warm ups a bit more appropriate for jiu-jitsu. Go, I'm going to do some of the shit from the poster.
Yeah.
Really good resource. And then further to that, if you just got a home gym and you want some ideas and you want some stuff on the wall that's going to help make your training sessions better, they're perfect for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, just in time for Christmas, we will be doing a bit of the pre-sale window. So it's just, we're going to get the orders in and then it will stop.
Yeah.
And so we will look to time this here and there throughout the year, but this is limited time just before Christmas. Get in quick.
Yeah, get the orders in. Orders need to be placed. We're going to set it. You'll see a date on the webpage, but go to bulletproofforbjj.com. You'll see the posters there in the shop section. And the orders will need to be in by the end of this month, November, and then we'll be ordering them up for Christmas. So we get them to you by Christmas time.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers, everyone.